in my last video I was doing a platter. It was a piece of wood that I'd found in my shop when I was cleaning up, and you know, I was like, shoot, I'm going to go ahead and finish turning that thing out. So turned out really nice. But then I was looking through the shop and I found this, and well, I'd never lost this piece. It was actually up under the lathe, but it's a piece of box elder, and you can see here in the bottom, you can see the red in there. And anyway, I'm going to try to get 2 pieces out of this. I'm going to try to get maybe some type of bowl right here, you know, possibly, and I'll use the rest of it for, you know, something else, another project. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be working on today, and probably the next couple of days. It's got a little bit of spalting in it, not a lot, but a little bit, and yeah. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm probably going to be trying to make a bowl out of the that crotch cut right there. But very interesting evening. Last night I went to worldwidewoodturners.org and I joined their meeting. They hold meetings every weekend, or every week on Wednesday at 6:30 Central Time, which that's 7:30 my time here in Georgia. But man, it was great. If you like, you know, to talk wood turning, that's all they talk about is wood turning, and you know, nothing else really. It's just all wood turning. People show what they've made, and they tell about it, things like that. They have a safety meeting, and I mean it's pretty great. And it's headed up by Captain Eddie Castellan, and that was all it took to get me to watch it, because he was kind of my mentor. I've never talked to him before, but you know, I watched every YouTube video that he ever made, and a lot of them was even before I started turning. But the man's really knowledgeable, and anyway, he's the host, and there's a lot of other people on there you may recognize. Kim Tippin, Pole Barn, you know, these people are on there too, and it's really good group of guys and gals. So if you get a chance, on a Wednesday evening about 6:30 Central Time, go get on the meeting, and you know, watch it, listen in, chime in, whatever. They're really good people, and they use Zoom. So you know, you have to download Zoom for the teleconference and stuff like that. But it's really pretty neat. Well, let's get started on this bolt, and I'm going to get it on the bandsaw and get it mounted on the lathe. Okay, I've got my 7-inch disc up here, using it as a guide to cut this thing out on the bandsaw. You can see I've got one really high side. But now here, I've got my center on the top. And there's my center there. I just need to get a center on the bottom. And I'll just roll it over, put my disc back on the bottom, and use that center point. It'll be close enough. Just hammer that in with a framing hammer. But that'll give us 2 center points. Now I'm wanting to use this knot here. I'm wanting to keep the figure from that knot in the bottom of the bowl. So this is going to be the side that has my tenon. And this right here will be the top of the bowl and the natural edge. I think it'll be pretty good. So we're going to get this thing mounted up, and we're just going to get it on the lathe. But that knot, the figure from the knot won't come through past the heart. So That's why I'm using it on the bottom. You can see all the little bug holes in the bark. I'm going to try to keep the bark, but probably won't be able to keep it all. But I will harden it up with CA just to try. Beautiful piece of wood. Here I've got it mounted on the lathe between the spur and the live center. I'm just going to try to turn it down and get it semi-trued up so it won't be so out of balance. But this piece here will never be in balance. But it's going to be pretty though, I think, because it's got three branches coming into this one place. So it'll have like 3 knot holes, or 3 knots showing up. And here we're just starting to true it. And I've got that one really high side that's really kind of rough. You just have to be very careful. Don't let the tool get to bouncing too much, and just work it down until you can get it true enough to turn. And just keep working. I'm just wanting to get my tenon. And here I'm getting down deep enough to where I can actually get an effective tenon. I'll just square this off. There we go. Plenty of wood for a tenon. So now we'll just square it off. I'll just use my parting tool for that. I usually use my parting tool to cut the rough shape of the tenon, and then I'll turn it on down with a skew to make sure everything's perfectly square and all of that. This tenon turned out really well. Now we'll just kind of start truing up the sides a little bit. And like I say, I'm not trying to shape it yet. I just want to get it kind of trued up so I can actually turn it without all the bouncing. And I'll make a push cut up to where the bark starts, and then I'll come down from the top. That bark is very delicate, and I want to try to keep it if I can. So I'm just taking delicate cuts coming down from the top. And decided to go ahead and sharpen my tools up because I was worried about that bark. Now we're just starting to shape. And all I was trying to do was just round this off really, really nice, get a nice curve here. And there's real big bark inclusions in this. And you can kind of see it here, the bark right there. I'm working on it. I just go around all the bark with CA and just try to harden it up. Then we're gonna go ahead and take the end of that knot off and get our tenon going and get it mounted in the chuck. So now we can work on the front of the bowl, and this is where I'm starting to shape it. I want about the same curve that I had on the bottom, so the top of the bowl will curve in instead of flaring out or coming straight up. Here we are, just scraping it down. We get the outside scraped down really nice. Get it good and smooth, ready for sanding. And these are just shear cuts with the face of the gouge pretty much closed. Now we'll start working on the inside. And I'm going to take off some of this bark, and I'm trying to mark how big I want the opening to be. And here I'm making a divot so that I can get my drill bit in the center. Now we'll drill a depth hole. Just go straight in with the 1/2 inch drill bit. All the way to the bottom. And this will mark the bottom for me. Now we're just going to start roughing this thing out. Just try to get all the non-essential wood out of the interior of the bowl, so we can do our finishing cuts and scrapes. Just trying to make a nice long sweeping curve. And I'll work from the top to about halfway down and get it to the thickness that I want. I'll go ahead and scrape that area and get it ready for sanding, and then I'll move on to the bottom section, or the bottom half of the interior of the bowl. I had to switch to my larger 5/8 gouge. Now we'll start working on the bottom section and get it all turned. Still roughing here. I've already done my finishing cuts on the top part, but now I've got to get the bottom and about halfway up the sides and get it scraped. Then I'll go around, and any tool marks that I can find that may be left, that may be hard to get off, I'm just going to go ahead and hit them with a sandpaper, about 100 grit, and then I'm just going to start sanding. I'm going to sand up to 120 grit, sand the whole thing, and then we'll start putting on sanding sealer. And I'll just apply it with a brush. And I put the first coat pretty heavy because it'll soak in, and I want to get as deep penetration as possible into the wood. It'll harden up the fibers, raise the fibers, and make it a whole lot easier to sand. And wax. We'll get this on the inside and the outside. And I've sanded here. I've already sanded up to 400 grit. I'm going to stop there. And I'm just going to put on my wax. Yeah, sand it up to 400 grit. The surface was very, very smooth now. I use Minwax paste finishing wax. Stuff works really well. And you can see around the edge that I did lose a little bit of the bark. I didn't lose a lot of it, but I don't think it really takes from the piece at all. There was just a lot of bug holes and the bark was loose to begin with, but I held on to most of it. So here we are, we're getting ready to wax. Just the first coat. And I'll just rub it in. Try not to get it in the bark. This stuff is very hard to get out of the bark, and it is a different color than the bark, so it shows up really bad if you get it in the bark. So I was very careful not to get it in there. And you just wipe it on. Wait about 20 minutes and then we can buff it. And here I am buffing it. All you're doing is just basically wiping back over it lightly, taking off the excess and smoothing the surface. It makes a really nice finish. And you don't have to buff hard. You're just rubbing it smooth. Then we'll spin it around on a jam chuck and start taking the tenon off and working on the bottom. Now I had intentionally left the bottom of the bowl about 1/4 inch thick so that I could take this little recess that I'm cutting, the concave, in the bottom. It ends up about 1/8 inch deep. So the bottom of the bowl should end up about 1/8 inch thick altogether. And here I am just finished scraping with a skew, getting it ready to sand. And I'll finish the bottom just exactly like I did the rest of the bowl. I'll use sanding sealer and wax. And here I am, I'll use my skew to take off the tenon, or to work the tenon down. Once I get the tenon really small, I'll just break it off. Well, alright, we're at the end of another project. This little box elder bowl, or hollow form, whatever you want to call it. Man, this thing was a blast to turn. I really had a good time doing it. Trying to keep the bark was a big challenge. And some of it got away from me. You know, when it flies off there and you can't find it, well, that's just your loss. But I still saved a lot of it. Still saved a lot of the bark. You can see all in here and all that. Now normally I will fill the bug holes and all of that with you know, like sawdust and super glue, or coffee grinds, super glue, you know, whatever. But I didn't want to fill anything on this one, and I didn't. All I really did, I tried to harden the bark, which helped some, but it didn't really help a whole lot. But even under the bark here, all the little wormholes and stuff like that are still there. And there's even one that you can see through right here. Right there it is. You can see through it to the bottom. But the knot that I wanted to keep in the beginning is right there. Oh man, it's a little dark in here right now. Anyway, I wanted to keep that knot because I thought, you know, well, the knot might be pretty in the bottom, but what I found out was it's feathered in the bottom. It's all like curly curly maple in there. You know, box elder is maple actually, but it's all curly in there, and it looks really good. You can kind of see it on the bottom here too, and up the sides a little. But this was a really fun project. It started out 7-inch diameter. It still should be pretty close to that. Yeah, about 6 3/4, and it stands. Let's see, about 4 inches tall. Not 4 feet. But man, I had a good time, and I'm glad you watched it. It was a lot of fun. The walls are about an 1/8 inch thick, all the way down to the bottom. I left a little bit in the bottom, about 1/4, so I could do my little detail thing on the bottom and concave the bottom. I took about 1/8 there in the concave, so that leaves the very bottom about an 1/8 inch thick. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too. And I guess I'm gonna see y'all down the road, because it's about 1 o'clock in the morning.